Hello everyone and welcome to Road to Reason. I'm Rick Wingrove.
I'm Larry Mendoza.
And this week we'll be discussing a couple of court cases. We've got a lot of video that we took at the Supreme Court about a week ago. We're going to get to it fairly quickly. First, like us on Facebook, watch all our episodes on YouTube, and we are live streaming on ustream.tv. We're going to jump right in, but first, Larry's got a couple of news items and announcements.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. First of all, I think everybody's heard about the disaster in the Philippines, the hurricane that swept through. I would urge everyone to go to foundationbeyondbelief.org and see how you can help out. It's a very bad situation out there, so they need your help. And it's somewhat personal to me because I'm half Filipino and I do have family out there. So if you guys want to help out, there's a secular organization called foundationbeyondbelief.org. All right. Next thing, just real quick, just a couple of quick news items also. There is the Archbishop of Canterbury, Lord Carey in the UK, has warned that Christianity is just a generation away from extinction in the UK.
Well, as nice as that would be, I don't expect that to really happen, but I'd be satisfied if people just keep their religion to themselves.
Right. According to him, people are just not very excited about religion anymore in the UK, so they're pretty much almost giving a defeat.
It's kind of ironic they have a state religion and nobody pays attention.
Right.
Maybe we should go theocratic.
Which is interesting because here in this country we don't have a state religion. We actually have a separation of church and state, and it's going the other way, it seems.
Allegedly, yeah.
But in related news here in this country, there is, well, first of all, let me say this. What would Jesus brew? So and that was the start of a Fox News article. There's a church in Texas where they decided to, I guess, increase or to proselytize in bars. So they're doing churches in craft beer places, which is interesting to me, because I think the atheist community has been doing this for forever, like skeptical drinking and all this stuff. So I think the religious community has now started to catch on up on that and say, hey, that's a good way to start, bringing in more people. When you have beer and pizza, that draws a lot of crowd, right?
There was a church thing just last year that they were using porn to help their people some way. I don't know. Serious deal.
That's
so sex and drugs sell. Sex and beer,
even in religion.
Drugs.
So, and one more last thing before we jump into our topics today. Beltway Atheists Inc. and Nova Atheist Meetup.org. We're having our, is it seventh annual Festivus party. For details, you can go to novaatheistmeetup.com. If you go to meetup.com, search Nova Atheist if you're in the Northern Virginia area. You can find details on how you can come and participate. It's really fun. We do a raffle. We're raffling off a bunch of books that are autographed by, we got Andy Thompson, we have Peter Boghossian's book. We got Andy Thompson's book in like 3 different languages, English, Urdu, and Polish, so it'll be interesting. They're all autographed copies. We're going to get some Dawkins autographed material and also a couple of CDs from some atheist hip-hop artists, autographed, of course, raffling off. So it's a good time. Beer, food, music. We have a DJ. It'll be a good time. So if you guys are in the area, just check us out, Nova Atheist.
And this is open to the entire atheist community in the region, except for maybe 2-3 people, and you know who you are. You know what you do.
That's right. You know who you are.
So
that's all I have. So want to jump right in?
Well, we're going to show some clips from the Supreme Court here in just a minute. Just want to say, though, that the atheist community, American atheists and other organizations like Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, as well as FFRF, are primarily focused on separation of church and state. And so one of the ways we have of affecting that is to basically we're left to sue people. That's pretty much the tool, because they just simply will not do these things on their own. They have to be forced by the courts. So we're going to be talking about the case that was at the Supreme Court, oral arguments last week, which was Greece, New York versus Galloway, which was opening public meetings with prayer. and the legality of that. A couple of other cases we'll talk about in the second half. We'll have Dave Moscato, the communications director from American Atheists, by phone, and we'll be talking about the FFR case, which just came down in, was that the 3rd District? It's in
yes.
Wisconsin Federal Court anyway. And then American Atheists' own court case, which is American
Kentucky.
Atheists versus the IRS.
In Kentucky, I think that's
in Kentucky, yeah. So we'll be talking about those. First, though, I want to give a shout out to our friend Eric Herman.
That's right.
Who
yeah,
not
Eric.
only took the video of while we're at the Supreme Court, but also has his own show here on radio at Fairfax Public Access. It's called The Nondescript Atheist. It's on Thursdays from 6 till 7 p.m. You can see it on Channel 37 here at Fairfax Public Access. It's viewable on Cox Cable, Verizon Fios, and it streams on radiofairfax.com. So, hi Eric, thanks for the help.
Yes, and again, that's Nondescript Atheist is the name of the show. And if you guys don't know Eric, you got to tune in. He's a great guy. He's very smart and he's very witty, and he's entertaining. So, and again,
it's stimulating conversation.
Yeah, he does have. He gets interesting guests on his show. So, so tune in on that on Thursdays.
So I think we're about ready to show our first clip from the Supreme Court from last week.
Yes, and before we're getting ready to show that, but before that, I want to touch base on one of those what we said earlier is that atheists are forced to actually sue because clearly most states and localities are in complete disregard of the First Amendment and the separation of church and state clause. And so what they're hoping is that most people don't have the money to sue and they continue to do what they want. So it's very important for the secular community to coalesce and help out and to help fight these lawsuits, because that's all we have left to resort to. We don't want to be in courts, but we have no choice.
No.
And this is where it's come down to. So that's the way it seems to be working these days for us. So.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and run that first clip?
We pray, O Holy Spirit, that everyone would be allowed openly and freely to pray, to speak, to share according to their beliefs, their traditions. Father, for the Christian minister, they should be allowed freely to pray in the name of Jesus.
Okay,
now,
what was interesting about that was how isolated they were.
Right.
There were about, besides those two people, they had, I think, 4 other supporters there, and we vastly outnumbered them there.
Right, and just for the viewers, that was Reverend Mahoney, I think, and he's with an organization called Faith in Action, who actually have leased an office building right across the Supreme Court so that they can quickly show up in front of the media, and when there's cases involving church-state separation, they're always there. Of course, it's only like a couple people, but they get a lot of media attention because they're out there with PA system, and they do all kinds of prayers.
Well, that's their fundraising.
Right,
also.
and that's also their fundraising.
Their
right.
townhouse that they own actually is directly across the street from the back side of the Supreme Court building, and of course, anytime anything happens at the Supreme Court that impacts, their freedom of religion, what they perceive to be their freedom of religion. And you'll see in some of these following clips, we're going to show another one here in just a second. But they're all over it. They're there, and this is how they raise money.
Right, and the interesting thing about that clip that he's talking about, that we should have the right to pray wherever and whenever we want. And it's a complete red herring argument, because the Greece versus Galloway case that was being during that day, there were oral arguments being heard at the Supreme Court, has nothing to do with forcing anybody to not pray anywhere. It's actually quite the opposite. It has to do with compelling citizens to pray in public meetings, like Board of Supervisors meetings.
Submit as a captive audience.
And submit as a captive audience. And if you don't, then you are sort of singled out, and people notice if you don't stand up and bow your head. And the one thing that's interesting to mention, and this is why this Greece versus Galloway court case has gone all the way to the Supreme Court, is because It's one thing if you're in a room of like 100 people and you're sitting in the back and nobody notices, but this was a small town in Greece, New York, I believe, right? And it was an atheist and a Jewish person who were like looked at weird because they did not want to participate in a sectarian Christian prayer. This is compelling people to pray in a sectarian manner, and that's what this is about.
And that is the problem, this perception of coercion and endorsement by the pressure that is put on you when you're sitting in that room. The clear impression that this is what the government does, the government is right to do this, and it's a clear endorsement, and it's clearly unconstitutional. What's this next clip we're looking at?
So the next clip we have is from Amanda Knief, who actually is going to debunk kind of the red herring arguments that the Reverend Mahoney here was saying, and she's the
managing director of American Atheist, and you should look her up on Facebook. She had a great. She was on CNN
that following
about a week or 10 days ago, and just blew them out of the water. Anyway, let's run that clip if we could.
Right over by us, we have somebody from Faith in Action who is pressing the case that this is a clear case of the government stepping in to tell people how to pray. Does he accurately represent the facts of the case?
No. In fact, the Third Circuit specifically said that this is not about restricting what people say. This is not about the government coming in and telling people that they can't pray something and that you can't legislate what people say in their prayers. And nor did the government of Greece do this, and nor did the Third Circuit say that should be done. In Marsh v. Chambers, the Supreme Court ruled 30 years ago that legislative prayer should be non-denominational or should be non-sectarian. But in this case, the court didn't find that. They said that you can't really tell people what they can and can't pray. But a reasonable person would look at the endorsement of the city, because all these Christians that came in and prayed, all these clergy, said that it was us and we and our Father and our God. And that makes it sound like it is the town and the town's God, and so it was an endorsement, an establishment of religion. And that's the problem, is what the court said, is that because we can't control what they're saying, we don't want to control what people are saying, we have this problem. And if you're going to go ahead and do those prayers, towns are going to have to address it.
Yeah.
So,
what was really embarrassing about that, I realized I'm wearing exactly the same outfit I was that day.
isn't that what you wear every day?
Yeah,
I think we see it.
Pretty much.
Anyways, but Amanda made a great point, and basically, what these townships, council members, what they're doing is exactly establishing a religion for that town, for that city, for that county. We have experience firsthand, Rick and I. Loudoun County, Virginia, Board of Supervisors were there usually around this time of year to fight their church and state, I guess.
Their nativity display they put up, and they have taken a position now that only that can be presented as an unattended display, and nobody else, just the Christian themes.
Right,
So.
and it used to be that they used to allow everybody to be on the courthouse lawn so long as you filled out a permit, and you could put up a display during the holidays, and everybody was happy, and then there was this big controversy. But to get back to the prayer, every time we would go to the boardroom, to the Board of Supervisors public hearing, they would open up with a sectarian prayer invoking Jesus Christ specifically, and we all had to stand up. And we, as atheists, felt like that's not, right off the bat, anything we had to say then to try to convince them or to try to give our opinion is already dismissed. Yeah. Because as atheists, we're not part of the in-group, the in-crowd of the county, which has selected Jesus Christ and that religion as an established religion.
And of course, it begs the question, why does religion have to be part of this thing? If they want to, so several people said this at the Supreme Court, that if they want to pray in their chambers in advance. There's no need. When you're bringing that out and forcefully including everybody present in this prayer ceremony, you are basically the power of the state forcing people into a prayer situation. And it just still boggles my mind, why is religion a necessary part of government, especially giving the wording of our First Amendment to the Constitution? So.
No, and you're absolutely right. And I think that this is, and it's not something that, a lot of these Board of Supervisor meetings in towns and councils and things like that, sometimes they try to mask that. They try to say, well, we have Jewish people come in and give an invocation, and sometimes we have, a Baha'i faith or something like that. Point of the matter is, why do you have to have religion in there in the first place? And how many of these townships allow atheists to go up there and say something about, atheist morality, which is, to me, seems to be something that would be a good invocation? Or how about just have a moment of silence where everybody can just go ahead and pray or think or reflect or do whatever they want? No, that's not what they want. What they want is an establishment of religion during that meeting, and
but
everybody,
not just any religion,
just not any religion. They try to cover it up sometimes with one or two. Last week we had Matt Skeens, who's a political activist, a young guy, and he's been in Wise County, Virginia. So that's, Wise County is a pretty red county, and he's been to the Wise County Board of Supervisors meetings. I think he did some research between 2000 and 2013. There were about 386 board meetings. And I think 316 of them were started with a sectarian Christian prayer. And then some of those were other prayers, maybe not sectarian, but certainly religious in nature. And I think he said only one out of those board meetings started without prayer altogether.
Right.
So, I mean, this is not something that's happening. This is not just something that is going on in a few places. This is something that's going across the country.
And they're getting more aggressive with it too, making a point of it. What's the next clip we've got coming up?
Yeah, so it was an interesting day, by the way, being out at the Supreme Court during oral arguments. I mean,
always fun.
Rick and I were there. American Atheist was there. Secular Coalition was there, and the president, I guess, of Secular Coalition, which is a lobby group in D.C. for the secular causes, Edwina Rogers, and she was there representing. So I think our next clip is of Edwina Rogers, kind of giving her insight into the case. So if we have that clip ready, we can show it.
Okay.
And so we have high hopes that the Supreme Court will finally do the right thing, like what they have done for school children, where schools cannot lead them to prayer. School officials cannot. So we would like to see the legislature stop it. It goes all the way up to the Senate and the House. Right across the street is the U.S. Capitol. There's a Senate chaplain, a House chaplain, paid for by taxpayer dollars. They're opening the session every day with Christian prayer, only Christian prayer. What about all the minority religions? What about the 22% of Americans that are not affiliated with religion, that are non-believers? Close to 10% non-believers, 22% in the non-affiliated category. So people are arguing that the Founding Fathers and the Constitution gives us freedom of religion, but not from religion. That is completely false. We have freedom from religion also. And, gods pretty much come and go. There's graveyards all over the place of former gods that used to be worshipped by many people. And we would like our paid officials that we vote for to show progress and be working for us and not spending their time with prayer and not forcing us into coercion. The folks that brought this case, they have been harassed. They have received threats and vandalism, and we are standing with them today, Larry, and thank you for coming out also to support the case.
No, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah, Edwina actually is a friend of the show. She was on here about a couple or 3 months ago now. And she's such a smart woman and a professional lobbyist, and not who you would expect to be a lobbyist for our cause.
Right.
Because she is about separation of church and state.
Absolutely.
But I don't believe she is an atheist.
No, actually Edwina is she considers herself an agnostic, and she's a Republican, which is unique in our movement, because usually, we have more progressive type people in the secular community. So it's actually, I think it was one of the best things we could do is to get Edwina to be our lobbyist in D.C. because she knows a lot of Republicans, and these are the people we really need to reach out, and some Democrats too. It's not just Republicans that are against church-state separation. There's a lot of Democrats that...
It reinforces the point that this isn't about trashing anybody's religion. This is about something that is built into the Constitution, and that is this prohibition against official religion, special privilege, special rights for religion. We'll be talking about that some more later too. But having a Republican non-atheist reinforces the point that it's not about trashing religion. Of course, we have Barry Lynn also,
right,
who is a reverend.
Yes, we do have a. We're going to go. We do have a phone call, so why don't we go ahead and patch that in real quick?
Hello, caller.
Can you hear us?
Hey, Larry.
Yes. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? I just wanted to ask, because I was also at the Supreme Court case, and I basically just wanted to ask your thoughts as far as, would you rather have prayer removed, altogether, or would you rather have, everybody be able to pray and have their say?
I would prefer there was no religious exercise at all associated with government exercises.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's either all or none, and if it's all, how many of the 3,000 possible religions that people may or may not follow in the world, how can we possibly accommodate for all of those? And even the three major ones, the three Westerns, it's almost impossible to accommodate everybody. And I think the First Amendment was designed exactly for that purpose, so that no one religion can take over. And as we're going to hear a little bit more about the case that the Freedom from Religion Foundation won, is that the judge, and there's precedent for this, said that it's not just freedom of religion, but that it actually is freedom from religion and clear separation of church and state. And so there should be public places they're not churches. There's plenty of churches around where people can go and pray.
And by the way, all of these people are perfectly free to pray in advance, but clearly it is their purpose to bring that out and make it part of the governmental function. And that's what we're opposed to. We suggest that they do their prayers in private, in their chambers, as Jesus said in Matthew. And that would pretty much solve the problem.
Right,
period.
And that's a key point, because a lot of times these prayers are after the meeting has started. After the gavel hits, then they start with an invocation and a prayer.
Right.
So that's a big point.
It's
not before.
as part of the government function. So.
That's right.
Thank you, caller.
All right. Well, thank you very much. All right, we got a couple other videos to show.
I don't know if we're going to have time for all of them. How about the one by...
we can do, what do we have? I lost my place here.
Americans United.
Americans United, Barry Lynn.
Barry Lynn.
Sure.
Have we got that one queued up? Let's do that one if we can.
Okay, I'm here with Reverend Barry Lynn of Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, who was in the audience at the Supreme Court now as they argued Greece, New York versus Galloway. Reverend Lynn, how do you think it went?
I feel very good about this case. I think that whatever one thinks the perfect way to resolve this is, the way that the town of Greece has been ignoring the diversity within its own community, the way it has been using government to promote religion of one kind, Christianity in particular, simply doesn't seem to fly. And I do think that this court will come up with a resolution that makes more people, not everyone perhaps, but more people comfortable being citizens and not being treated as if they have to participate in a prayer before they participate in local government and ask for a zoning ordinance, ask for help for their kid with disabilities, or any of the other many things that people want in this town.
Right, and we've heard several people out here talking on camera, and they seem to be couching the argument as this is the government trying to tell them how to pray, trying to neuter their prayer, but that's not really what the facts of the case are. What are they?
There's absolutely nothing close to being accurate in the argument that somehow this is the censorship of prayer. Nobody is censoring anyone, including the Christian pastors who predominate, in fact, overwhelm startlingly overnumber anybody else in Greece. Nobody's telling them they can't pray in their chambers, they can't get like-minded people together in the hall. In fact, we do this all over the United States. 37 states do it this way. The other problem that simply is not, has been a red herring among red herrings. There's so many red herrings, frankly, in this case, that you could turn the blue sea purple just by adding all the herrings together. I mean, government is not censoring anyone's prayer. This is not about personal prayer by individuals. It's about government-sponsored prayer. Government surrogates, these invited pastors, give the prayer. They pray to the audience. They don't pray to the members of the town council. They're there to evangelize those who show up. And that should not be a price of admission to go seek redress in the town council of Greece. It's just not the case. As a member of the clergy, if somebody says, can you do a non-sectarian prayer? I kind of know what they mean. The United States Supreme Court's adopted a view that excludes atheists from many things, including the definition of what is non-sectarian. They say it's okay, it's not sectarian if you believe in one God, but if you go any further than that, then it becomes sectarian. Most scholars would say, honestly, baloney. It's sectarian if you assume one God or 10 gods or no God at all. But that's the floor we need to build from. We need to say, you got to get it better. And I think that our plaintiffs in the brief describe some of the ways to make it better, but it will never be fully inclusive until governments get to the point where they say, if you want to pray and you're on this governmental body, please pray before the gavel goes down to start the official business. Pray for whatever you want, deal with cable television rates and the trolley system when the business part begins.
I agree. That would certainly be our ideal outcome. I know you need to go, but let me ask you one more question. How do you think it's going to come down? What's your read?
You know, I'm guardedly optimistic. I mean, I really do think that there are 5 people concerned, at least 5, sitting on the United States Supreme Court who don't like the practice as it is. How far they would go to correct it, we may not find out till May or June.
Okay. Reverend Lynn, thank you very much for taking some time with us. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we want to talk a little bit about that, but I think we need to take a quick break.
Yeah, we do need to take a break, and when we come back, actually, we should have Dave Moscato, the communications director from American Atheists, online to talk about the IRS cases.
Sure.
So I guess we'll go to break now.
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, or there'll be hell to pay.
When I was younger, I didn't want to admit I had a serious disease. Because of my diabetes, I lost the sight in my left eye. Misconceptions continue to surround this monster public health issue, but the simple truth is, diabetes can often be prevented and complications avoided. You're not alone. Understand the realities of diabetes and know that you can manage it and lead a full, active life.
There's an alarming trend in the world today. Everywhere you go, people are saying that cinema is dead. But cinema is not dead. My name is Count Simon Gauntley, and on my television program, Count Gauntley's Horrors from the Public Domain, I make it my mission to resurrect forgotten film classics. I promise to dredge the sewers and ford the stagnant streams of film history to ensure that no film is truly lost to the ages. Count Gauntley and FPA, keeping cinema alive! Alive! Alive!
Well, even though Joseph's been gone 18 months, we've made the decision to keep all his things as they were when he was here last. I finally just packed his toothbrush away like 6 months ago. It had been sitting on the counter in the bathroom. And I was cleaning the bathroom one day and I just thought, okay, it's time to put the toothbrush in the medicine cabinet.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Okay, we are back, and I believe we do have Dave Moscato on the line. Dave is the communications director for American Atheists, and he's going to talk to us about two current cases, one by Freedom from Religion Foundation, which had a very favorable decision come down yesterday, I believe, and we're also going to talk about the American Atheist case. Both of these are about the IRS exemptions for what do you call it?
Well, equal opportunity. So
yeah.
basically, both of these cases really have to do with the fairness and how the IRS treats 501c3s that are religious versus non-religious.
Right.
And the non-religious 501c3s are at a disadvantage, which clearly shows there's favoritism for religious organizations, which clearly shows a privilege, a special privilege, which is in essence at that point, violating the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Okay.
So,
okay, Dave, can you hear us?
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Very good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'll be here.
We're going to talk about the American Atheists versus the IRS, but first, want to talk about the Freedom from Religion Foundation case, which just came down yesterday, I believe. And it was actually a really good decision for us and will probably help us. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Barbara Strategy put that down on Friday. And this is a major decision. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars here a year, not a year, between 2002 and 2007 is that figure, 2.3 billion, I think.
Right, and explain exactly what the special exemption is that the churches are getting here.
Sure, so if you're a minister of the gospel, quote unquote, clergy that is, are permitted to use a housing allowance from their church, and they can use that for rent or for mortgage payments and for home improvement, for maintenance, for repairs, for all sorts of different things. And this is exempt from income tax, which basically means it's subsidized by the government. I mean, the way, I guess it was, I don't remember when this was, but there was a Supreme Court quote, every tax exemption constitutes subsidy, is the way that it's worded. Right. And yeah, so we're all paying for this. And I mean, it's a form of income for the ministers. It means that churches do not have to pay their ministers as much as they otherwise would because, housing is basically included for them. And it's just discriminatory. The only reason that they get this exemption is because they're religious. A staff of other nonprofit organizations do not get anything like that, and there's no reason for it. It's just because they're associated with a religion.
Right, and what we saw was that what the judge said on the Freedom from Religion Foundation case was that there is no special need. Show me the need that they experience that other homeowners and taxpayers don't have. And it amounted to a special privilege based strictly on religion.
Right, real quick before we continue on, Dave, if you don't mind, can you turn the volume down on your TV? I think we're getting some feedback here in the studio, which is making it kind of hard for, to hear you. If you don't mind doing that.
You're talking to me?
Yes.
I don't have it on.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're getting feedback from somewhere.
Something.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, okay,
marching
yes,
on.
and marching on, right. The interesting thing is correct. As you said, I was reading through the actual judgment from the judge, and I tell you, it's a pretty scathing judgment against this parsonage exemption, which is what it's a tax code exemption. I think it's U.S. Code 107. 107, and I believe, and basically everything the defendants tried to throw at the judge immediately just dismissed, and basically said that doesn't cause any undue burden on practicing your religion. Everybody has to pay taxes. You're no different. It doesn't matter. This is your personal home, your personal property. Why do churches and ministers get special privileges? And what was funny was that the defendant got so petty that they tried to say that Lori, and also, well, not Lori, but what's his name? Just drew a blank.
I'm blank too. I'm not sure who you're talking about.
The other plaintiff.
Dan Barker.
Dan Barker.
Dan Barker. Yeah.
That they were trying to say that he actually does minister type of ceremonies or something like that. And one of the things that they mentioned was that he unbaptizes people. And, it's just hilarious, and
they're trying to make atheism into a religion.
They're trying to say that, you're right, that atheism is a religion, and they could apply for the same types of exemptions, even though there's clear case law here in the judgment. It says, no, this is absolutely not the case. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've heard anything, if you have anything more to add about that specific thing, about trying to, what these defendants are trying to do.
I don't have any more information about that.
Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. There's no secular reason for this, and it's really the same. Ministers have the same housing needs as everybody else. There's nothing special about that. It's not like they're living in a monastery or something.
No,
this isn't the whole reason, but this is a big part of the reason that you often see ministers with these really fancy houses with swimming pools and stuff like that. It's because it's tax-free.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you do manage to redefine atheism as a religion, you still haven't changed the problem. You still have this benefit, this privilege being allocated on the basis of religion.
Right.
So it doesn't change anything to make it available to us.
Right. And
it's not any nonprofit leaders should not have an exemption for their own house as a student. Why? That's relevant to their job or anything that the taxpayers need to worry about.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You're sort of breaking up there a little bit. I'm not sure where the feedback's coming from.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that feedback is coming from. I don't have one here, so I wonder if it's something from your end.
Okay.
Yeah, could be.
So I'll read a quick passage from the FFRF case. It says, as noted above, in this case, the burden of taxes is borne equally by everyone who pays them, regardless of religious affiliation. So concerns about free exercise do not justify a special exemption. In 1984, the Treasury Secretary himself, this is 1984, during what year was that? This is the Reagan years, right?
Right.
The Treasury Secretary himself recognized this point in a memorandum in which he recommended to repeal 107 because there is no evidence that the financial circumstances of ministers justify special tax treatment.
Yeah. Dave, what year did this law, this special exemption, even come into effect?
1954.
How odd is that? What else happened that year?
That was, if I recall correctly, the year that we added non-due trust to our currency, to our paper currency, and I think it was shortly after that that we added Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Right. And if we're still getting some feedback, but in case you guys didn't hear Dave, basically that was the same year when "In God We Trust" became the motto. It was the same year that we started seeing "Under God" and the Pledge of Allegiance, and it happened to be during a time of the Cold War and the communism, and that year especially, that era was a real power grab from Christians to start to convert our government into essentially a Christian government.
Well, Congress made laws.
Congress started making laws.
Patently unconstitutional, and I'm sure we'll pick away at them one at a time. Dave, I want to talk about the American Atheist case a little. First, I want to say that, American Atheists started in 1963 based on Madeleine O'Hair's success in the Supreme Court, the case Murray versus Curlett, which outlawed state-mandated prayer in the public schools. And there was another case that day, the name of which escapes me, which covered Bible reading at the same time. And then we've had other successes off and on over the years, as has FFRF, and a few losses. Last time I saw you was down in Florida, in Stark, Florida, at the Atheist Monument Placement dedication, which was a great win for us. And,
yeah, that was very exciting.
And now explain the difference to us between the FFRF case on this tax exemption and the American Atheist case, and where we are in this.
And whether it will help the American Atheist case as well.
Sure. So our case is about discrimination as far as the Form 990. So the Issue Revenue Code requires 501c3 nonprofits to fill out a form called the 990. And the 990 covers all sorts of stuff. This is basically the main document that the government uses to make sure that nonprofit organizations are not abusing their tax-exempt status. So this is how they keep track of everything that an organization does as far as spending their money, as far as money coming in from grants, from investment income, from donors, and how much, as far as what it's about, how much is allotted to each program, how much is allotted to administration as far as staff salaries, and everything you can think of really that has to do with money. And like I was saying, the reason for this is accountability and transparency. And something else that's very important about the 990 is that it is open to public inspection. That means that anybody can go to any nonprofit and ask to see their 990, and they have to show it to them. In fact, if you don't have it readily available, you can report that to the IRS. A taxpayer is supposed to do that, they don't have easy access to it. So the point here is that churches are completely exempt from it. They simply don't have to fill one out. Some churches make this information available for transparency issues because they want to show that they're not hiding it. But the way the Internal Revenue Code is set up now, there is no requirement for them to fill this out. And this is bad news. This means that we have no way of knowing if a church is cheating, if a church is taking an income and using it for things that they're not supposed to be using it for, if they're using their tax exemptions for things that they're not supposed to be using for, like personal shopping or for their staff or whatever. We have no idea how much their staff is making if they're not reporting it themselves accurately on earning income, tax returns and so on. It's really shady. And if churches are not hiding things, they really should not have any suggestion to filling this out. It is very time-consuming, and it is expensive to do, which is a reason we don't do it. But we understand the importance of it, and that's why we do it anyway, aside from the fact that we legally have to. So when I say that it's expensive and time-consuming, I don't mean that it's like annoying. I mean it takes 200 hours to fill out this document every year, and it costs $850 to file. And another thing that's important about it is that it reveals the name of our fixed donors. So if somebody donates more than $5,000 a year, we have to report that publicly what their name is, which is a real problem for organizations like ours because there's a stigma attached to atheism. So we have people who come to us and say, I would love to donate more, but I don't want the name published and open to public review, because then everybody would go $5,000 to an atheist group.
Hey Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, let me interrupt you.
Sure.
We're getting a lot of weird feedback of some kind. Would you do us a favor? We'll recap what we think we heard. Could you hang up and call us back again and see if we get a better line? Okay.
So
I guess.
So right. Yeah, we apologize for that. I think so. Just to give a quick, in case people didn't quite understand that. I think this lawsuit was filed in December 12, 2012, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically two plaintiffs against the IRS in the Eastern District of Kentucky. And they demand that the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, stop giving preferential treatment to churches and religious organizations via the process of receiving nonprofit tax-exempt status under the Internal Revenue Code. Groups like the American Atheists receive tax-exempt status under IRS Code 501c3, but because the organization is not classified as religious, it costs American Atheists and other secular nonprofits significantly more money each year to maintain that status. In the lawsuit, American Atheists and other plaintiffs are demanding that all tax-exempt organizations, including those characterized as religious by the IRS, have the same requirements to achieve and maintain tax-exempt status.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much summed it up. Yeah. I think that's correct because I got that straight from the American Atheist website, so I hope that's right.
Dave, you're back with us?
Yeah, is that better?
Much better.
That is better.
Okay.
So we were just touching on some of the high points that we brought up. In essence, a lot of similarity in the case is that this is still just a privilege given to clergy and to churches, which just is simply not available, not just to the regular citizen, but not even to other 501c3s.
Right.
So
how do you, and I'm not sure if you touched on it when there was a little bit of feedback, but how do you think that the FFRF win? Because it's I think there's a lot of similarities within these cases. It's about special privilege. How do you think that's going to play out now with the American Atheist case?
We're probably going to include some of that language into our arguments going forward. We just had our oral argument so far, the opening oral argument, so I'm not exactly sure what the next step is, but there hasn't been a judgment yet or anything, so we still have a ways to go with this one.
Yeah.
But this definitely helps our case as far as establishing a precedent for the fact that there's no reason to have these kinds of exemptions just for religious organizations. It's discriminatory.
And I am assuming you're foreseeing this going actually up to the Supreme Court, I would imagine. I think this is going to be appealed.
I think it's almost certainly going to be appealed if we win the first round. If we don't, then we're going to appeal. But yeah, we are prepared to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. And this is something that the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church are going to fight tooth and nail because there is a lot of money at stake here. I mean, just significant amounts of money and things that these churches do not want people to know as far as how much they're paying their staff, how much they are paying out to cover up things that they don't want the public to know about in settlements, and all of that information will be made public, including the names of donors. This is not stuff that they want to reveal.
And you know what's troubling with the Supreme Court? We have, 5 Catholics on the Supreme Court?
5 men who vote as a bloc.
So, I wonder how fair they're going to be in ruling in this case. Certainly the odds are stacked up against us, as they always are, being atheists in this country, which, interestingly enough, we're one of the few countries that actually, or the only country that actually doesn't have a state-sponsored religion in the Western world anyway. So. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, the Catholics and the Mormons do have a lot to lose, and so do televangelists.
Right.
Because,
well, now.
I mean, the main reason that we're talking about the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church specifically is that they're just so big that they have a lot of money and influence as far as pulling together to fight this sort of thing. Individual televangelists are not going to have the influence to really fight it, even though they have just as much of an interest in this.
Well, no, they may not, but they certainly have a lot to lose. For instance, I grew up around Fort Worth, Texas, and Kenneth Copeland has a huge compound with just this amazing, huge house. I don't even know how big it is, 40, 50, 60,000 square feet, right on the lakefront there, prime property, with his own airport attached to it. So. Certainly, I'd love to see how they're handling this on their books, but I'm sure they're receiving huge benefit from this IRS exemption.
So, quick question. So, you were in the court during oral arguments?
I was not. I was in New Jersey, but our lawyer and Dave were there.
Edwin Kagan, I imagine?
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, how do you think the oral arguments went as far as what you've heard? From the lawyer and everyone else, and how do you think it went? What was the feeling coming out of there? Can you speak on that?
Like I said, I wasn't there, but Dave told me that he's very confident. They think they have a great case. I mean, if we didn't think that we had a great case, we wouldn't have proceeded with it. But from what I understand, this is a strong case. It's clearly, I mean, it's written in black and white in the Internal Revenue Code. Religious organizations are exempt from it. No reason given, and it's not anything besides the fact that they're religious, and that's discrimination on the basis of religion, which is a protected class. So there shouldn't be any fight, really.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think there will be a fight, but
right, there will be a fight, no doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, the FFRF case doesn't hurt us at all that it came down that way.
No, and as a matter of fact, if you read the actual judgment, it's a 42-page judgment from the judge. I mean, if this court case, your American Atheist case goes any way like the Freedom from Religion Foundation case, I mean, this was a scathing rebuttal of religious privilege in the tax code. And yeah, I think, this gives some pretty good precedent. I think you guys, and I'm sure the lawyers are working on it, to introduce some of the arguments presented in the FFRF case, probably as an addendum maybe to your case, because it's certainly relevant, and it's certainly now case law. And it's yeah, you got to read the 42. I don't know if you have already or not read the.
I don't have it right here, but I do. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Is Edwin Kagan doing the arguments himself?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, he should certainly be aware if there's a way to present the FFRF case as an addendum to that.
Right.
I'm sure Edwin will know and will certainly take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. Mm-hmm. And just as a side note, Barbara Crabb, who's the judge in this case with the FFRF, she's the same one who ruled in April 2010 that the National Day of Prayer is unconstitutional.
Right.
That was subsequently overturned in, I think, April 2011, if I remember right. But yeah, she's very good as far as seeing separation of church and state as a positive thing.
Yeah, she seems like definitely very pro First Amendment, as most judges should be to uphold the Constitution.
Well, the excerpts I read and what you've described reminds me of the Dover case in Pennsylvania about creationism. I read that whole decision, and scathing is the word for it. He called it a breathtaking inanity, was some of the language he used in that.
Well, I mean, the thing is with all these court cases, and what's important to remember is that we tend to generally win most of the time, not always, but most of the time with some of these court cases when it comes to just common sense type of things. Where atheists lose, and I think now we're starting to gain ground, however, is in the public arena, in the perception of what we're trying to do. I mean, even with the Greece versus Galloway, you saw the Reverend from Faith in Action completely twisting what the arguments, what the lawsuit was really all about. They're trying to they try to turn everything into, oh, we're being persecuted. Right. Oh, the evil atheists are trying to kill religion. They want to, and it's not, I don't.
I mean, there's a Christian majority in this country. It cracks me up that they try to play the victim card here.
Yeah, the poor persecuted 250 million of them.
And that brings me, I had a feeling kind of angry, I guess, yesterday, and wrote a long rant on my Facebook page about Christmas time and how much I disagree with a lot of what Christmas is about. And one of the things that I say in there is that, look, first of all, Christmas was hijacked by Christians. And then it was hijacked by rampant capitalism that turned it into a money-making, entity. And then what makes me angry is that Christians then try to use atheists as a scapegoat for a war on Christmas, as we're the ones that started this war on Christmas. I think capitalism and materialism destroyed the meaning of Christmas a long time ago anyway. We're just trying to stand up for our rights. We're trying to stand up for what we believe in. We're not trying to stop anybody from practicing their religion. That's what the First Amendment is about. And I think it's very just, it makes me angry to think that this is what this has turned into. Us atheists trying to destroy religion and Christmas and everything else.
Well, if I may say too, I am a regional director for American Atheists, and if there were a war on Christmas, I would have got a memo. So, no memo. But
Dave, did you get a memo?
What else? Do we have a billboard campaign going this year, Dave?
I can't answer that right now.
Okay. All right.
Stay tuned. Yep.
Okay.
I'd love to come on your show next week and talk about that.
Well, yeah,
interesting.
let's get Skype working on your end, and we'll get you back on.
No, certainly. No, we definitely appreciate you coming on and giving us your insight about these lawsuits, which I think are very important.
What is? Do you know what the next step is on American Atheists versus IRS?
I'm not sure actually where this is going to go from here. I think the next step is a judgment at the Eastern District of Kentucky level.
Okay.
And then from there, one of the other side will appeal.
And that's a circuit court that will come
Second Circuit, I think, yeah, or 10th Circuit.
Okay. I get kind of confused with the court hierarchy sometimes.
Yeah, and it's right. No. So yeah, no, I mean it's we'll see. It'll be an interesting. We'll definitely here on Road to Reason. We'll definitely keep you guys updated on as these things progress, and when there's any kind of big news about these things like the FFRF case, we'll definitely cover it and let you guys know.
Yeah.
So
we've got about 40 seconds left in the show. Dave, we appreciate you coming on short notice. I know I had to call you at home last night, but these were a couple of big things. I'm sorry, we have about 1.5 minutes to go. Well, anything you want to add, Dave?
Yeah, we have our convention coming up in Salt Lake City next Easter. So we would love to see you all there. Please check out our website at atheist.org. And as far as the IRS case, we have a $100,000 matching fund for this case from some very generous donors. So anything that you donate up to $100,000 is matched dollar for dollar. So if you care about separation of church and state and this IRS, we highly encourage you to look into that.
Okay, appreciate that. And I'm glad you mentioned the upcoming American Atheist Convention.
And it's in where?
Where is that going to be?
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Mormon country. We got Sickness, a hip-hop artist who is going to come. Maybe you guys should invite him to do some hip-hop atheist rapping.
I'll talk to him into that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell Dave to get Ricky Gervais on the convention docket.
That would be amazing.
Anyways, we gotta start wrapping things up. Thanks, Dave, for coming on the show. Thanks for our viewers and for watching. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Like us. Spread the word.
See you next time.
See you next time. And
children, where schools cannot lead them to prayer. School officials cannot. So we would like to see the legislature